Hello and welcome to the Dungeon Masters Guildhouse. This is a weekly podcast, and I believe this is episode 22 or 21. We'll go with 21. I want to hedge my bets on that one. And I am overjoyed to be joined by Anne Gregersen. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm very happy to be here.
It's been the case of, what is it? It's a long time in the works, as most of these organizing podcast things are. It's like you always case of like something busy comes up and then you have to kick the can down the road. But we've found some time. We're here to have this chat, and by golly, are we going to have a good chat?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So it's been a few weeks or months in the works, and it's mostly my fault, and I'm sorry about that.
No. Listen, it's in the grand scheme of things, we're like focus on the now. We're here now. We're gonna have a good chat, and let's not waste time. Let's jump into it. For the people listening, then, who may not be unaware of your I was trying to think of like a fancy word to say your collection of wares. But what sort of products are you known for?
My collection of wares. It sounds very ominous.
Yeah.
Not like my catalog of D&D stuff. That could be a thing for it. But I am probably most known for the D&D stuff I create for my Monster Loot series, which I've been working on for almost a year now. It's actually on the 13th of May, so very soon, or maybe when this is already uploaded. It's been out for a year, and I've almost completed the entire series of making a volume for each and every hardcover release from Wizards of the Coast, detailing loot for every single creature that appears in that book, either adventure or monster collection or whatever, so that if a player goes up to the Hydra and goes, I want to loot it, the DM doesn't go, and now they actually have some things they can give to the player who wants to loot whatever they've just killed.
So no, it's also that it's coming up to the 1 year anniversary of that, and to be able to be within a year have the entire set complete as it sort of continues to expand. What was it? Were you a DM who kept having like your players ask for loot, and you was like, I need something for this, or was it just where did the idea come from?
Yes, it came from a mix of things. It came from me just playing like games on my own, computer games, like video games, where the part I always loved, whenever I killed a creature, every time in an RPG, I would run over and see, oh, what did I get? Like, I wanted to see what I got from killing whatever big thing that I just, spent like 10 minutes and dying repeatedly trying to kill. And it's kind of the same with the players, because I was running a hunting campaign at the time. I was at least planning on one. And whenever they were going out to hunt a creature, the reward would be, oh, you killed it. Now go back to the city, get some gold, do it again. And that very quickly that wasn't very satisfying. It was much more fun to go out there, and once you had killed the creature, you actually had to roll the dice to see, oh, do we get some cool loot now? Or are we going to fuck it up? Or mess it up? And is the thing going to be ruined, or are we going to get something really, really awesome that we can then use and become even more powerful adventurers? And universally, I've used it with many tables, with many different people, new players and veteran players, and they all love it, because it's a great response, like a great reward to doing something really hard that is killing like a boss creature or something like that. And it's, at least for me, for my play style, the amount of loot that you get is pretty balanced in regards to, what can you say, like not overwhelming the player with stuff.
Yeah.
Because they can just say, oh, this is trash, I don't want this, and then they can just leave it.
No, it makes a lot of sense, because I think that there is like when it comes to designing stuff and the hardcover book, sometimes it feels like it's boring to say, oh yeah, these people had like empty pockets or something. Chances are they have something of value on them that the players are going to want, and to actually have like a whole product to sort of say, well, no, there's not only are their pockets filled, they have really interesting organs that you may find useful.
That is very true.
So I guess
I
actually,
don't know about the sentence "really interesting organs" though.
Really,
That's something.
valuable organs. Check out my wares of interesting organs.
Really interesting organs.
So to keep so you mentioned that, was it? So it's coming up to like the year anniversary of the Monster Loot series. How long have you actually been creating on the DMs Guild? Did you start off with the Monsters Loot, or was there something before it?
No, I started out in November of 2018. So I've been working on DMsGuild for a year and a half, actually pretty precisely a year and a half. And the first thing I released on the guild was a small collection of magic items from my home campaign, which was just like me testing the waters of getting something out there.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I did a player's guide for playing with children, either at the table as players or playing as a child character in game. So I did a small guide for that. But that actually wasn't my first kind of venture into 5e design, because in September, 2 months prior to going over to the guild, I released my first product ever, which was a campaign setting over on Drive-Thru RPG.
Yes.
It's like a 140-page campaign setting for my custom world with my continents and my regions, my subclasses and subraces and all that sort of stuff, just that was specific for my world. And that was kind of a love letter to my players, because I had made it for them originally, just a PDF version for them, and that was like 140 pages of content. And I wasn't expecting them to read it at all, or read all of it. It was more an index for them. So if I said, okay, you're going to this town, they had the opportunity to look into the book and go, okay, this is what my character knows about the town. That's very nice. So just I have this understanding of it, or I can look it up in the middle of the session if there's something I want to kind of research.
Yeah.
And then almost by accident, I fell into doing this whole DMsGuild and publishing thing, and it all started with me just wanting to make a pretty book for my players, and now I'm here, and it's kind of unreal.
I like how you talk about, like, you started off with like some items, and you say, oh, I was kind of like dipping my toes in with, and they say, oh, but before publishing items, I did write a whole setting guide. So you know, it feels like you went in like with the most ambitious project first. But one thing I did want to ask, because I find it quite interesting. So the guide of playing at your character as children, or bringing children onto the table, that was Clonker's Guide to Being a Hero, right?
No, that wasn't it.
Oh,
It was a small PDF released in November called Little Heroes. Clonker's Guide to Being a Hero came out in September of 2019 and is a collection of adventures meant to be played with children, with a foreword side kind of detailing how to play with children at the table, and that being directly from Little Heroes. Chris Walls, who was the leader of that project, actually approached me and asked if he could use some of it, and I was like, yes. That was a very high praise that he wanted to use something I'd written in a separate product, in his product that I was also working on. So I was like, yes, you could totally do that. And that actually created a bit of an issue for me when Little Heroes came out. Not issue, perhaps, but some wrongful presumptions that people were making that I was kind of the child DM. Like, I had played a lot with children, or I had children. A lot of people assumed I had kids, and I don't. The reason I made Little Heroes was because I didn't know anything about playing with kids at all. So I wanted to know. So I did a lot of research over the course of like 6 months, and interviewed my mom and a lot of her colleagues who are teachers and who like work with children. And I went to all these lectures because like, I want to know how to do this. And it was like, I have done all this research, and God be damned if I'm not going to share it with everyone I know, because like someone else needs this information as much as I did. So like I just put it in a PDF and threw it online and see, okay, someone might like this, and they did. That was very fortunate.
That makes a lot of sense. And it is that case of like just finding like a gap in the market and just like, well, no one's doing this. I need, like, literally, I've put all this work in that I may as well, try and get something out there. But my design question kind of linked to that is like, obviously, like trying to tailor like an adventure or an experience to different tables. What's like some of, like, if there are people listening who just like they want to start playing D&D for their kids, especially topical given everything that's going on right now. What's some like good advice that like you would say, okay, well, how would you take an adventure and make sure it's more fitting for like a younger audience?
That depends very much on the age of the child in question, I found, because if you're dealing with a 13, 14-year-old, you can handle way more mature themes than if you're dealing with an 8 or 9-year-old.
Yeah.
It entirely depends, and also depends on the child in question. I would advise, obviously, look at the kids and be like aware of if they're having fun or what frustrates them. That's going to be on a very individual basis. But generally, and this is also just a thing that goes for new players, is that the rules for D&D, if you've never played an RPG before, if you don't know anything about the concept, then D&D is actually really, really difficult, because there's a lot of things you need to have an overview over, and there's a lot of things you need to maintain and remember. There's a lot of dice. Like, there's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
So it can be very difficult for a young child who doesn't know anything about RPGs. It's just a new player who has never played an RPG before. It's like, okay, this is your proficiency bonus, and this is your spellcasting modifier, and you also have all these spells that you can do. And it's like, you have to read them all, and they're very specific in their language. Like, they're not going to do that. It's homework. They think it's boring. So, like, in my experience, the easiest thing to do is to take a very simple class, like a fighter, that has a hit attack, and that's basically it. And then reskin it to be whatever the kid wants it to be. So if the kid wants it to be, I want to be a flying elephant that casts fire spells. Good. You have a fighter character sheet, and whenever you roll to attack, there is fire, and you are an elephant. Like, it doesn't matter to them that they have all these bonuses when they're just starting out. They just want to have fun and do fun things in the world that you're setting up. It's make-believe. And also another thing is all the dice. I usually remove all the dice except for the D20 and the D6. So all damage and all healing and all spells is a D6, because the kids know a D6 from having played a lot of other board games, and the D20 is big and fun, and the children want to roll the big dice. Like, you roll the big dice, and like, yes, like, roll a big number. That's fun. So that's really just a general thing of advice for playing with kids, I would say.
No, honestly, that kind of tackles like kind of the question that I was after, to just get like a more summary. But it kind of says like, just take the shell of the game. Like, again, you don't need to be bogged down with all the mechanics. And again, what is it? So like, rather than where you just roll a d20, like over 10 fail, like success, under 10 fail.
Yes.
It's
exactly
kind of trim it down to its basis. Okay, cool. Well, I guess like, so again, so to look, going back to like your catalog, again, using that as a better word than a selection of wares. Aside from the Monster Loop series, because we kind of spoke about like the kind of origins behind that, then you do have like quite a mixed library of like content. Like if that's the best way to like, it's very sort of DM facing, I would say, in the most sense of like, but like, where do your ideas start? Like, talk me through the process.
My ideas always, like, there has been no product that I've made on my own, at least. It's been different with collabs, because people have come, oh, I have this cool idea. It's like, that is a cool idea. And then I join in, and that's fun. But with all my solo products, it started with me either playing a game, like playing D&D, or sitting in my couch or somewhere and just having the thought of, oh, I would like there to be something like this. And then I go home and I Google it, and I find that there's nothing to my satisfaction. And and I and then
that's it. It's got to be done.
Yeah, it's like I have to do it now, and it's and that's often how it happens. Like in a lot of times, I find something that is akin to what I would like, but it's not the exact same. Like it's either too complex or it's not play tested enough, like to the point where it's like, okay, this doesn't work, it's not balanced enough. Like it's not, I want it to be better than this. I think the only exception to that, because all my other products I've used very consistently in all my games, is the Apocalypse guide that I did. That was purely because I wanted to know how to run apocalyptic scenarios in 5th edition, and I thought it was a very fascinating perspective to take. And I really had no intentions of actually running an apocalyptic campaign at that time with my players. But I remember when we were talking, we were in a homebrew campaign that I was doing, and I was telling them about this idea and how far along I was with it, and then there's just 6 people looking at me like, what are you gonna do to our world? Like, what are you planning?
Yeah, I suppose when your players are your playtesters.
I promise. Like, nothing's gonna happen. And they were just like,
I suppose, was it, with being the DM, you could always throw it back on them and just be like, well, I'm not doing anything, it's what you do. Like, if you were in the world, that's on you. That's
where in reality you've been planning this for like 2 months. It's like, I didn't do anything, this was all your fault.
So I also, if I remember correctly, the so is it Sir Alkian's Guide to Surviving the Apocalypse?
Yes.
Also, I believe there was like a slight interesting, just because it kind of walks that middle ground of obviously with DMsGuild you're allowed setting neutral stuff or things tied in with the how did you find like navigating that space with that sort of product?
Well, I didn't really have much of a problem with it, because it doesn't remove, it doesn't jump in time necessarily. It doesn't go to a different era of the Forgotten Realms or whatever other setting. It's a setting neutral book. It's basically telling you, here is what a medieval world or fantasy world, how they would react to these sorts of calamities. And like I was designing from a basis of the Forgotten Realms, which is a kind of standardized like fantasy world where things kind of happen. And these scenarios that are in the Apocalypse book, they have sort of happened in adventure modules before. Like there's a kind of the Frost, which is an apocalyptic scenario where the entire world gets over, like completely frozen over, and these like icicle monsters starts appearing. And it's not really what happened in Storm King's Thunder, but it's what they're alluding to, like the eternal winter is coming. And there is a portion of the book of the Apocalypse Guide that says like, okay, you can have an apocalypse that's just localized, that people are hearing about, that's like slowly spreading, and then people at the other end of the world, they're just going to be like, oh, those are just rumors, we can't feel it here, it's not real. And then slowly it starts to creep in until it's too late, and then someone has to be the one who comes in and is the wall that stops that from happening, kind of like in the adventure modules. So so it was pretty much just looking at how like it would affect a world in a storytelling way in a lot of ways, and that has already been done. So my work was easy in that sense. Could just steal from Wizards of the Coast, so it's fine.
It's all done. So also as well, so you kind of touched on it with the like again doing the sort of little heroes, or like it sounds like you have quite an intense research cycle to your like writing your adventures. is that kind of like your the first step you take? You kind of go deep dive into like the books, the websites, and yes it is. In fact, I'd say the research portion of a product is probably my favorite. Like overall, I love researching what different like little aspects of making a product. But it is I love researching in general, but it is with the caveat that I have to find the topic interesting. So for instance, if I'm writing a paper for school and the topic is
not so interesting. Like, the research is so boring, and it's basically like pulling teeth, and I hate it so much. But then you have something like the Apocalypse guys, like, okay, you have to research zombies, and I'm like, yeah. And then it's like I can read forever. And there is a project I'm working on right now, actually, where I thought, okay, I'm reading a lot of different books for this right now. I should probably start writing down the books and just like, so I can have like an index of things that inspired this book or whatever. And I think we're up to maybe a half a page of sources already, just like a column of names of books, because I keep just going, but this one has a cool sentence that I'm gonna use.
So I guess
yeah.
like, my question from that then is like, so how, like, obviously if taking something like from research as written, it doesn't necessarily turn itself into a engaging mechanic or system or item. How's that process of taking, you know, obviously like, I mean, like, is that process easy to take the research and then make it fun, or
that depends. It depends a lot, because there are some staples of genre or of certain themes that to ignore them is to kind of ignore the core of the genre or the theme. So if people are going into the Apocalypse book, that's a very good example. Like, going into the Apocalypse book, they are expecting zombies. They are expecting this to be the thing. And then you go into kind of what, again, is expected of the genre of zombie horror. And, you know, there's always the person who gets bitten. There's always the thing of, okay, the theme of the zombie apocalypse is that it actually man's the real monster, and the zombie is just like this husk that goes, it's an outside threat that really shows the beast within a person and stuff like that. So that has to kind of be shown. And it's kind of distilling what the topic you're dealing with is into its very core like themes and like what the essence of it is, and you can work from there. And in a lot of cases, you can just, okay, well, if this is the core of it, if this is what's important, I can slice away a lot of these other things, because that's distracting from what it's really about. But if you can really go into anything, really, a creature, a country, like in Forgotten Realms, or a region or whatever, and distill it down to, okay, what is the essence here? Then you can play a lot with that. Because if you try to take like, okay, this small nugget of thing, this is cool, and you ignore everything else, people who buy that product or read that product will be like, oh, yeah, like, this isn't what I wanted.
It's almost too focused on that singular point rather. Okay, then I guess there's more like what's been the most difficult subject to research?
Yeah. I'd say, it's interesting.
Just because, again, so to even just like talk about like all the different DM tools and stuff like that, because obviously, so I imagine like Gesh's guide to making things, very sort of hands-on, practical, very sort of like, I imagine like looking at materials and things like that. Obviously,
there wasn't actually a lot of research with Gesh's guide, because I basically just wrote down what I thought was kind of intrinsical to a crafting system, like 2 years ago, and made a very rudimentary system that I then gave to a player in my group who was a kobold artificer, and I told him, this system will change a lot, and he's like, perfect. So we had a very good thing going where he was my playtester, and he was really, really good at picking it apart and ruining it for me, and that's what he was supposed to do. So with Gesh, it wasn't as much direct research of me sitting down and reading a lot, or like going on the internet a lot. It was just me having a lot of conversations with him and observing how he used the things in combat and or in game, and watching him go, oh, that doesn't sound good, and dismissing an idea and thinking, is this because of his character, or is this because of the thing not being fun or engaging enough on the page? It's like, and trying to kind of rework it through that. I think the product has been not, I won't say the worst to research, but the hardest, like the most
Yeah.
difficult to research, is probably the one that I'm working on right now, because and that's still sort of secret, not really secret, it's sort of secret, because like it involves a lot of going back through many older editions of Dungeons and Dragons, and you read 5th edition, it's like, oh, this is a cool descriptor of this thing, but there's not a lot of lore about it, but I'd like to know more. I'm gonna go back an edition.
Yeah.
And see what they say about that there. It's like, oh, okay, they go a bit more lore, but it gets a bit more problematic. Okay, I'm gonna go back to 2nd edition, and oh god, that's racism. Oh no.
Yeah.
So it's like,
So, funny, I've kind of got like a similar things where like the lore only covers up like to a certain point. So I'm looking at like Waterdeep at the moment, and I'm looking at like the temples. And I'm like, okay, cool. There's this person who's currently in charge of the temple in year, I think it's like 1380. Okay, what year is it now? Oh, it's 1480 at the moment. They can't be 100 years old. That's, what do I do? But no, interesting. Okay, no, cool. So yeah, okay. So mix and match. Obviously, like I imagine when you have like again a wide range of things you look into, it kind of varies how much you're gonna have to do that dig deep research.
It does make me appreciate kind of the elegance of 5th edition a lot more when you go back to just 4th edition, and especially just like 3.5, because a lot of people like 3.5 with the mechanics of it, and that I agree with. Like there's a lot of mechanics in 3.5 that are being brought back to some 5e games who want more of a mechanical version of playing. This is completely fine, and I understand that. I'm also a bit of a like numbers. Roll the dice, yes. Like I like that. But the lore and how that is written, it's not as much just what is written, because it can be some really cool things in 3.5 and 2nd edition and even 1st edition. But some of it seen with modern eyes, it's like, whoa, okay, I can't use this. And if I'm going to use this, I have to mold it in a way that it changes. And in those cases, I am changing the law. I am taking this that is in the law, official law for this creature or item or whatever, and putting it into my product and going, actually, that is bad, and I am changing it. Yeah. I am making it better because I am putting it in my product obviously differently, so I would think it was better. Mm-hmm. And that I always worry that some people are going to be like, actually, like, how dare you even consider that this could be improved? And I'm like,
I mean, I think that's the nature of being a creative, though. I mean, just the nature of creating things. You're doing things through your lens, your perspective on things, and that comes through in the work. Obviously, you wouldn't want to put work out there with problematic things, knowing you could have changed it. It's just, it's not how you want to be. No, interesting. And so I guess what sort of mechanical crunchy parts of like 3.5 are there that you like? Is there anything in particular that you like, or is it just more like the general consensus of the? Just because I'm a 5th edition baby. That's all me. I'm young. I'm new.
Oh, I am too. It's like most of the things from 3.5 and also just from 4th edition. Like I picked up on little things like, oh, cool concept. Don't like the execution here. I'm going to steal it. I'm gonna put a 5e spin on it, and then I like it. It's like that's been a lot of that. I did that with Gesch's Guide a lot. I went back to different books and kind of looked through. Oh, okay, how do you do crafting here, and how do you do crafting here? Mm-hmm. Oh, I hate this. I'm going to take aspects of this, and I'm going to change it so I like it. And it's like it's a lot of that of reading. When you're doing something like a crafting guide or a harvesting guide or an index guide or anything like that, the first thing that I do, at least, and I think a lot of people do, is look at how someone else did it and see, okay, here's what I like about how they did it, and here's what I don't like about it. It's not even as much as, oh, this is bad. It's just like, this is not what I want. So I'm going to take aspects of this that I like and change them so it becomes mine. And it becomes a new version of whatever system I'm trying to design.
In your discussion with Gesh, of sort of like bouncing back and forth of ideas with your playtester, what did you discover was like the most important thing, or like what part of the gameplay experience did you want to capture? Was it just the simplicity of crafting things, or the like expressiveness?
wanted it we had like a lot of the discussions, me and him, and he was very much the sort of player who liked to sit on his own and then come up to me and say, I want to do this.
Okay.
Because he had read all the things and had a very established thing. Okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, because then I can do this. And it's like he had the whole thing planned. So that's kind of how it was designed, that I wanted to be very, very clear what he could and couldn't do, when and how and what he needed. So that he could just sit, if he wanted to kind of prep for a session and figure out what he wanted to craft, he could do that in his downtime, or when other people were talking, who just kind of look through his crafting guide and go, oh, like a pocket of holding, that sounds really cool, but to do that I need to do this. It's like, okay, so I have the roadmap of what I want to craft, and how exactly I'm going to do that, and the items I need. So I wanted that to be a lot of transparency in how the players were using that product. I wanted it to be so that the DM obviously could read it all and kind of understand it very easily, but I wanted to be first and foremost for the players, that they could just read it and understand it pretty much immediately, because I didn't want it to be too complex. In that case, I'm really a fan of how 5e does it. I like the simplicity of 5e because it allows for a lot of creativity, and it allows for a lot of rules to be added on that wouldn't otherwise be added. And I'm of the opinion that crafting shouldn't take longer than combat should. So I see some of these crafting systems, it's like you roll a d20 and then you add 2d10, and if that total is older than your youngest child, it's like that's like something weird. And it's like it gets too much. It doesn't reflect really the D&D 5e mindset that I really love and want to capture in a lot of ways.
No, that makes like, I mean, when you're making systems for 5e, you kind of want it to blend in with the whole system as a whole. So that makes a lot of sense. So to bring it back about your creative process as a whole, then you mentioned that the research is kind of like a favorite part of yours to sort of go through. To the other side of the coin, is there any parts of the process that you don't necessarily enjoy as much?
Yes.
Oh, do tell.
Making the product page.
So the product page. Yes.
Oh, launch day, making the product page, setting everything up, inevitably messing something up so that the preview doesn't work, or that the preview shows the wrong file, or for some reason you uploaded a PDF from an assignment you did 2 years ago in university. That's totally not a thing that happened in real life. So it's like, I'm just sitting there waiting for something to go wrong. Also because, like, I love DMsGuild. It's my baby. It's done so much good for me.
There's one or two problems, like one or two. Just
some issues with the technical aspects of the site sometimes. And so there are times where I try to upload a title and it's just like, oh, you want to upload a picture? Haha, no. Not allowed that today. No. What do you think, you want to upload 2 photos, like 2 pictures to your description? Are you insane? What are you doing? Like, what's the matter with you?
So I think as well, so when it comes to the product page, it's like, it's advertising, like, distilled down to its like core point. It's like, you need the product page to sell the product, and having any sort of, like, you know, minor technical issues aside, having everything laid out in the perfect thing is a challenge. Am I coming through all right?
Oh yeah, you just had a little dip there,
I had a little dip, cool. But yeah, so like, do you think you've kind of got the formula down to like a decent like store page, or is it just the stress of saying this is done now, I'm ready to push it live, and just that last barrier?
It is the thing, it's kind of the same stress that it is for me with doing layout, because I really, really, really like doing layout. I think it's probably I love writing, obviously. I think that is my favorite part of doing these sorts of content creations. But doing the layout is giving the product a face in some ways. It's presenting the content that is in the text and doing that justice, like showing it as being cool or engaging just on the page. You don't even have to read the text to be like, okay, I want to read this PDF, I want to read this book because it looks so cool. Like that's kind of what the layout is supposed to do. And in that sense, it's kind of the same with the product page. The product page is a sort of layout for the product before someone has bought it. It is the representation of what the product is, again, at its essence. And if you mess that up, some people are just going to look at the product page and dismiss your entire PDF because like, doesn't look like something for me. And it could be totally something for them.
Yeah.
But because I didn't set it up properly, or because it's not pretty enough, or because it's too simple, people are just going to dismiss it. So I've had a lot of panic about designing the product page, because I feel like this is where everything goes wrong. And if I do one mistake, if I commit one error, no one is going to buy this product, ever. And I think that every time, regardless of if I know that people are going to buy it, or if I know that it has worked before, like with the Monster Loot, I basically have the same product page for every single volume of Monster Loot. And every time I open a new one, it's like, oh, this is the one where they're going to absolutely hate it. And it's like, I don't know why I think that way.
I think it's a natural case of like just, you know, putting your creative work out there. It's stressful. It's, you know, you want positive feedback because, you know, you're putting things out there. I'm curious about where you fall on the, like, when I come to shop on the DMsGuild, I am very preview based. I don't necessarily, I skim the store page, but my go-to is always I want to see the document. I want to see the PDF. Do you like what's your like? I know there's conversation around about like 100% previews, 80% previews, 20% previews. Like, do you fall on any particular, like, what's your hill to die on?
I think it depends on the product, about the previews, because if you have a product like Monster Loot, which is very index based, people aren't gonna, Monster Loot is not designed for you to sit down and read Monster Loot from one end to the other.
Yeah.
And if you do that, it's not going to be a fun experience for you. Like it's not fun. It's not meant to be that. It's meant to be, okay, I'm playing Tomb of Annihilation. They killed a Goralon, those monkey creatures. Yeah. Okay, what loot are they getting? G, Goralon, click. This is what they get. Yeah. And then you ignore the things around it because that's not relevant for the situation. So in that case, I show most of the new content and none of the kind of old content, the things that are repeated from the other books. But even with those index things with Monster Loot, I show at least, like with the core volumes, the 3 core volumes, where all the cool monsters are in, like 50% at least. Yeah. Just because if people aren't that connected to the entirety of the thing, like it's like a little tease. Like, you know what this is now. It's very obvious what it is, and it's going to be this way throughout. So if you want to know what's on Tiamat,
yeah, you keep the crown and the gold. Yeah, no, yeah, it's interesting because I suppose being adventures are a different beast. And that's why I always feel like with preview, it's like it's you can sort of preview the whole thing, and that's kind of the way I treat it and stuff like that. Because you want to see that sort of consistent flow of like how information is presented.
Yes.
And as you're entirely right with like index stuff. Or like with like monster books, you kind of want to see that, okay, there's a good amount of art per stat block, and there's a little bit of text in between, or just this is going to give me exactly what I want with no fluff. I don't need the fluff. I'm not here for fluff.
Yeah. Like that's really also the thing with, if I had released, I think even with the Salkian's Guide to Survive the Apocalypse, I have a really decent chunk of a preview. I think I have like 30, I can't remember, but it's a decent chunk at least. Yeah. But if I'd released that now, I would definitely have either gone 90% or 100% preview, just because it's a lot of content where you want to see, okay, there's a lot of different things here. There are subclasses, and there are races, and there are backgrounds, and there are apocalypse scenarios, and there are monsters. Yeah. How are you doing these things? I want to kind of know before I buy this expensive PDF. I might actually just go and do that after this. So people can watch the entire video.
That makes a lot of sense. I think I've been saying that makes a lot of sense a lot. I think that's my go-to catchphrase of this podcast. It makes a lot of sense. That's the episode title.
Well, I'm just glad you agree with me. It's fine.
But looking back on everything that you've done on the DMs Guild, then, is there any particular lesson that you kind of wished you'd learned earlier?
Hire an editor.
Oh, dude, it's talk about classics. That's the second motto of this podcast.
I think a lot of people who start out in the guild are very shy and just come in with the things that they kind of made for the home games, and they put it together and they read it through for typos, obviously, and they maybe send it to a friend who can read it through for typos and stuff like that, and then they put it out into the guild, and then 2 years pass and they look back at that product and go like, oh, because it wasn't edited. I have that with some of my products. Like, why didn't I hire an editor? What did I do? Why did I do this? Like, it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even have to pay an editor, in the sense you can hire them based on royalties.
Yeah.
So like it's so easy to get an editor involved, and there are so many editors who want to be involved.
Yeah.
And I can really just and also in the vein of an editor, it's kind of the same thing, but having people early on in the process of making a product or making a thing or whatever, have someone give you feedback and read over just the outline of your thing, because it's one thing to have a large product like, okay, here is 150 pages, please give me some feedback, my friend. And it's like, oh, that's a bit of a favor to ask for a friend, and that could be awkward.
Mm-hmm.
It's way easier. Okay, here is an outline I did, it's 2 pages long. Can you tell places where this idea isn't coming through clearly, or something that might be missing, or something that's kind of seems like it's out of place, it doesn't fit? Can you kind of give me just like your 2 cents on the concept? That is so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be so scared of doing that, because there was this idea in my mind, like, someone's gonna steal it. They're gonna take it from me. Which is like, it's a valid fear, because if you go online and just like, is this an idea, someone might take it.
Yeah.
But if you have people you trust in the community, or just have one or two, like on the Discord that a lot of people frequent, a lot of people just kind of ask about some feedback on this, and they hop into a DM and get some quick feedback, and that's it. Really getting that sort of feedback early on is extremely valuable, and I really advise people doing that. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think about the same thing is like I've had the like privilege to work with like a whole host of different editors. And it's interesting to see what different editors kind of bring to the table, and trying to find the editor that kind of challenges you in the right way. Just because, I mean, it's at the end of the day is like, I like to have a conversation with my editor in the document. Like I'm not necessarily. I would prefer it to be a document where there's comments on the side where we have a back and forth about certain points. After I've gone through and said, oh no, you are right. There's not 3 A's in the, or once those issues are moved to one side, the sort of like the mechanical or like the flow things. I think at the end of the day you end up with a better product. And you maybe make a friend. Hey, just sort of like
That's also really good.
Yeah. But it's just get an editor, share your ideas, make sure that they're, I think as well, so by that same logic, especially when working in, for me at least, working in different settings that I'm not necessarily familiar with, just because I'm very much forgotten realms, running ideas of other adventures in other locations by people who know that lore quite well, really good idea before you make an absolute buffoon of yourself about certain things. Like, oh, I didn't know things work differently over there. But yeah, okay, no, cool. I think that kind of covers like all the sort of core questions about the your creative experience and stuff like that. And I like that question as well because it often points towards the DMsGuild community as a whole, and the future. So I'm curious, do you have like a dream project that you've always kind of wanted to work on that's kind of off in the horizon?
Yes.
Ooh.
I I really, really, really want to redo my campaign setting at some point.
Interesting.
Because it was the first product I did.
Mm-hmm.
It is my baby, and I'm really, really, really proud of it, obviously, because I spent a lot of time on it. It's like 140 pages of content that I wrote exclusively.
Yeah.
But it didn't cost me anything to do. It's
Mm-hmm.
only public domain art that's in there. There is nothing but free assets or things I've made myself. And it shows. Like, in the nearly 2 years since I've released that setting book, I have learned so much about design from a layout standpoint and from a game design standpoint and from a technical writing standpoint, that I just know that the content in that campaign setting is inferior to what I could create now. And I really want to do it justice of remaking it and making it as good as I possibly could. So I have a dream that at some point I might be able to do a Kickstarter for it and kind of get it rolling and get like a proper book out there that's like fully fleshed out with a lot of lore and a lot of information and a lot of things that are completely like edited and great new layout and awesome things that are just really unique to the setting. That's kind of a dream project. Yeah. So that is very far in the future.
Yeah, and would your idea be to kind of keep this as like, obviously bring editors and artists involved and stuff, still keep it as like a very sort of personal project, or would you think about bringing other people involved?
I would definitely involve other people. I would probably involve a lot of other people looking over the mess of the subclasses and races I made like 2 years ago when I didn't know anything, and kind of say, okay, here's the concept of it. Mm-hmm. Can you fix this? Or can you make it more interesting? Or can you make it more cohesive or better to the 5e experience, and so on and so forth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I don't envy the people who specialize on classes or subclasses. My adventure design brain that is so smooth. I just can't. I just like don't know how to make classes.
There's so much math.
There's too much math.
This?
I don't understand. Just give me the dice. Just let me roll the dice.
Yes, that is fine enough for math for me. I don't need more math than that.
We go back to just give me D20s and D6. That's all we need.
Yes. Yes. Core D&D.
Yes. The purist. It's like I feel like you could
purist D&D. 2 dice.
You could definitely go to like avant-garde level of D&D. Where this is like this is like, the most pompous and refined D&D is that, where there's only one check.
The most refined, the purest. Yes, harvested from the grapevines of France. Like, yes, the original D&D.
You have a D20 and a coin, or the coin is just yes or no. You flip the coin. Yes, it happens. No, it doesn't. That's all you need.
I hit the monster. Yes.
Do I kill
how much damage? Yes.
Yes. See, I feel like there's a game there somewhere. But so keeping the eyes to the future then. Not breaking in any NDAs or anything like that. Can you say anything that you're working on currently, or is it all?
I am working on a book for my the personal project. Mm-hmm. Which is the largest thing that I've ever worked on, and I'm kind of just like, based on math, it will be at least 300 pages, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this alone, and I don't know why I started this. What is wrong with me? And I've had contact with a few editors already, just to be like, hey, how realistic is it for someone like an editor to take on a 300-page project? And it's like, ooh, that's a lot of pages.
A lot of the editors that are there just like, I'm calling for backup. I need some help on this.
Like, I have already established, like, there are 2 editors. I've contacted them both individually and been like, are you interested? And they're like, yes, I'm very interested. Like, would you be okay with working with another person? This is like, okay, great. I feel less guilty now.
Yeah.
It's like, here is 250,000 words.
Is that like, this is how many words it's going to be, or currently this is the word count that's sitting out right now?
No. Not at 200. No, like I started like maybe a week or so ago writing, and I say that like I started a week ago or so writing. I already have like 20,000 words, and it's so
I started it last week,
a lot.
so I expect it by the end of the month. Then when's it going to start?
Exactly. But the working title for it right now is the Slayer's Handbook because I am funny, and so I'm working on that, and it's kind of it's in the background right now along with a lot of other projects because I have exams, and I do have a few NDA things that I can't talk about yet, and I really want to talk about it. And it sucks.
So no, this is all part of my tactic. I bring people on the podcast while they're on NDA. Then once the thing's out, they have to come back and talk about it because that's the exciting thing.
Yeah,
it's guaranteed. It's long-term booking.
Yes.
But
I can say that I'm writing a CCC for GameHallCon. I'm allowed to say that.
Yes.
And I have an Adventure League adventure coming out next month, I think, for the Oracle of War storyline for Eberron, which is really exciting. But that's already kind of, that at least has been in the works for a while and it's kind of done, but it's getting released soon. And then I have the massive Mastodon project that I'm working on that will see the light of day sometime in 2022 or something like that. I don't know, man. It's a long way from being finished.
Nice. No, I guess so. Like, a super cool question as well. So you had some nice success with the Wanted Dead or Alive series. Any thoughts of like future collaborations or Wanted Dead or Alive?
Wanted more dead, extra alive,
more alive,
super alive. Yes.
So alive.
That was a very fun project to do, but it came at a very unfortunate time in my life, just because there was a lot of other work that was happening.
Yep.
I was writing. I don't know what I was thinking. Like I think it's this thing where if I get done with a project, I get this like rush of energy where I get really excited and I get the motivation to start a bunch of new stuff.
Yeah.
And if I start something just on my own, that's one thing, because when I then get too tired to actually continue with it, I could just put it down and that's fine. But with this, I involved a lot of other people. And now suddenly I was in this project and I was completely overworking myself with a lot of other things. And I felt so guilty on the Wanted Dead or Alive project because I felt like the worst project lead. And I felt like I wasn't taking it seriously enough. And I felt like I was so terrible just to work with. And everyone has told me that's not the case, that they actually enjoyed themselves on the project and thought it was really fun. I thought it was easy to understand and liked the templates that I made and liked the project outline, that liked it all. And I hear them talking and saying like, we were fine. Literally all of us were fine. And I'm just sitting there like, no, you're lying.
No, I'm the worst project manager. I'm here at my desk brooding.
Yes.
There's fires on in the background.
No one likes working with me. And I know it's not true because I have this like this handbook thing I'm working on now, and I just mentioned that it was going to be long, and I had a lot of people contacting me like, "Hey, do you need help? Like, I really want to help out."
They're just like, I want to get in on that. That is.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, like if people want to work with me, it clearly wasn't that terrible, but it's also just a case of me wanting to do justice by the role of the project lead and being the one who is kind of not in charge, but like managing in charge, like the one who manages everything and makes sure, like if someone comes with a question, I go, okay, I'm going to give you an answer at some point.
Yeah.
And that takes energy, and you have to kind of have like, you have to have the energy to do that. And right now I don't, because I have so many.
No, I mean, like, project management is a whole beast in itself. I mean, that's why there's people whose job is to just manage a project, and to be managing a project and also writing the project or doing the layout as well. It's understandably stressful.
And it is actually the thing that I'm in some ways going to school for. Like, I'm studying digital design, and a large part of that, when I go into my master's after the summer, I will be starting on courses that is going to teach me more about being a project manager and leading like projects and stuff like that. And I already have some experience with it. So it's not that I'm bad at it. I know from a technical standpoint that I'm good at it. But I also know that I can't do it justice right now with how good I want it to be, because I don't have the energy for it, and I don't want anyone to suffer under my project leadership if I am not bringing enough to the table, just because I'm too tired.
Yeah.
And it's not even that I'm unable to be or practicing really. It's more that I am just too tired and too exhausted because of all the other work I'm doing to lead a project, even though I really want to.
Yeah.
So I think I am likely going to involve other people in this, but it won't be until July, because I have to get through my exams and a few NDA projects and a lot of things that I need to get through. And once that is sort of sorted,
you need to put some spinning plates down. You can only spin so many plates.
It's Emily. That's I don't know why it's Danish. But exactly. Yes.
That's fine. No.
This is so much of a casual conversation. I'm just like, yeah, Danish is what we go. Yeah.
No, in fairness, it would have been interesting if from that point on you just only spoke Danish, and they'd be like, oh no,
yes, it's fine. And you just nod along, like, sure.
I can fake it for long enough. But no, that makes a lot of sense, and I think as well, there's a lesson there in understanding how much you can feasibly do, and people who are new to the community or kind of have been around for a while, you learn that after time. I know I've hit points where I've agreed to too many collaborations at a time, and then it feels like you can't work on any of them because you're almost like it's like a video game. It's like you have reputation bars with the people you're working with, and you're just like, oh no, if I'm not doing this work, then yeah.
September of last year, I have like a little Excel arc where like a sheet where I can look at all the different my earnings and my releases and stuff like that. And in September of last year, when I was a bit stressed because I had said yes to too many projects, I released a total of 15 projects in 1 month. And my Twitter was just like, hi, I've released something new. And it's like, people were like, Anne, are you okay? And I'm like, no.
I think that was
very tired.
Was that the inception of the Anna GMO? Or was that shortly after?
Yeah, that was then. Like, what is happening? Like, what is this? Every time she's in the channels, like, I have something new out. Like, what are you doing?
I don't know. I fall asleep, and when I wake up, I'm working, and then something's out. But I suppose to keep it focused towards the community as a whole, then, and sort of bring this hour chit chat around roughly to an end. Are there multiple people, or who particularly in the DMsGuild community inspires you?
Oh, that's a mean question because there's so many.
You have 3. No, you can.
Oh no!
No, honestly,
what's the top 3? Go! Yeah. It's like
they have to be in order. Who is number 1? I understand how mean this question is.
yeah, totally. But I can go on forever about people who impress me and inspire me. It's like you and Laura Hisbrunner and Brian Holmes, Ryan Langer, the entire admin team on the Discord, Val and Brittany and everyone, Bob. Like people are so impressive, and then these new people come in, like Sadie and Lydia, and all. So many cool people all the time. But I think if I just want to pick one who really just impresses the living hell out of me, I would probably go with Eleanor Jordan, or EIF Jordan. She goes by on DMsGuild, because it's like, if you think I release a lot of content, what the hell is up with that? Like,
no, what is it? So I think she is coming up to almost having the most amount of titles. Like, I think she's second, or
it's completely bonkers. Like, I don't understand it, and it's like the thing that it's almost like it annoys me, because when she releases something, it's consistently very, very good, and I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, who is the like infernal devil thing that you made a pact with,
Yeah,
and where can I get that number?
I think it was the case of like everyone in the DMsGuild community is like, congratulations, well done and stuff like that. But we all know secretly there's some infernal stuff going on.
Yeah.
We just accept. It's just like, oh yeah, no, just sold their soul, but
it's not fair.
Great content, great creator.
Like I've even alluded to it on Twitter at some point that I am like I'm part of this thing that I signed where I in turn then reach out to other other creators who can then sign, and then I take a part of the profits, and then they take some, and then it goes up like that, and then you just get 48 hours of the day, and that's how you release this book.
Yeah,
it's very easy. You just
up.
have to, yeah. An infernal sugar daddy. That's where it's at.
See, I regret all those years ago selling my soul for a bag of Skittles. I should have had like a higher price than that, but yeah, you make mistakes, and I don't live with them because I don't have a soul, but that's fine.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I think, you know what, I think that's probably a good note to end on. If people are curious, like Anne, obviously you've got exciting things in the work coming out in 2022. How can they stay up to date with all the stuff that you're working on?
I sometimes am funny on Twitter sometimes at Anne of many names, Anne with an E, and I have ramblings about D&D and about my life and about people who are frustrating, about people who are cool, and I sometimes post things when I release a new project, which is often. So it's like I am very active over there. So if you want to get in touch or just interact with me, that's the way to do it. Nice. That's very lovely. Yeah, I follow back. So.
Hey. No, yeah. I think Twitter's a good place for that and stuff like that. You know, it's nice to keep up to date with all the drama and the the subtweets and all the shade. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, the tea. The tea
on
Twitter is something special.
Like I said, I think my job is to check Twitter after this and just make sure I've not missed anything. But
the one has exploded, and Twitter was the first to report on it. Obviously, it's like Well, at least when I need an internet detox, Twitter is the first to go. Just like literally.
You just have to. You just there's something going on somewhere. But yeah. So once again, thank you, Anne, for taking the time to join me. You've amazing guest. This has been really insightful chat as always. Yeah. I've been your host, Matthew Whitby. You can find me at Whitby Writes on Twitter, where again all of what Anne said applies to me as well. I occasionally tweet things. I'm sometimes funny. I do try. But my final question of the podcast, how do you end a podcast?
How do you end a podcast?
I honestly don't know.
I think you look at the camera and then you look scared and then just cut to black.
Okay. I can try my best to look scared. I haven't felt emotions in a while, so this is gonna be.
I'll do it with you, so you're not alone. We can be scared together.
So thank you so much, and and